all esteemed panelists and all esteemed members of BDA for another edition of webinar. Our topic today is branding. We'll just brief out a few words that, in today's world of real estate, we have, we can no longer sell real estate on Bhumi Pujan or, making some random advertisement. I think today customers have become more picky. They're more choosy. They have a lot more options. And I think they tend to inquire a lot more about the developer. Today, our need is that we need to build that atmosphere of trust, delivery, and empathy towards the customer. This requires a process of institution building. We can't now look at ourselves as individual businesses. We have what we choose to say about our company and what we must stand for has to be delivered 100% of the time, not just one time, but every time. And the perception with which the customer views us in our journey, that's the science of branding. And yes, branding is to most people is advertising and marketing, but I think that's much more than that. It's a detailed science. But before I begin and before I let the guest speaker come and explain us that science, I'm going to call upon Harish Bhai to say a few words on the campaign that we have all so close to our heart, that is Real Estate Hi Real Hai. Harish Bhai, please.
Thank you, Legan. Before welcoming, I will not take up Real Estate Hi Real Hai, but let me just welcome everyone. And just let me say a few things about branding even. Good evening, friends. We welcome you today to the 11th episode of our webinar series. Our today's episode is on branding strategies for real estate projects. Very, very important. Branding for redevelopment. Frankly, आज अगर पूछा जाए तो we have all ignored branding in redevelopment. We have really ignored. Even in all our webinars, be it on sales and marketing, digital marketing, funding, and others, we have been constantly told by everyone to become a brand. Most of us, including me also, we think that redevelopment doesn't need branding. It doesn't need branding. Why? Because अपन ये सोचते हैं कि है ना अपना एक geographic area है, उसी के अंदर माल बिक जाएगा, and why to spend time, money on branding? But let me tell you, branding अगर अभी आगे अपन नहीं करेंगे तो it will not work. In times to come, branding will, in times, it has come, and in times to come, branding is again going to be very, very important for all of us to work. Today, Hiranandani or Tata or Reliance or Oberoi or Rustamji are brands which people love to work, love to associate, like to fund, people like to buy. They are all brands. Even our all-time favorite place. Can anybody guess? Like MCGM, I mean to say. They even like to correspond with the brands. So branding has become very important in nowadays life. Like anybody going and not knowing, their branding plays a very important role. Branding has changed in digital times. Branding is way to create business, way to create goodwill. Today in redevelopment, when we sit with our society people, the most important things they always want to talk is amenities. And in amenities, the important role is, again, branding. They start with Jaguar, Otis, Gold Medal, Polycab. They are their first preferences. Why? Just again, because of the brand. So friends, BDA has realized कि एक अपने जो BDA के members हैं सब, they have to create a brand. And BDA, from inception, when it was difficult to gather even 5 developers together, by constant efforts, today BDA has become a brand. ऐसा ब्रांड हुआ है कि एक ही वेबिनार में कमिश्नर सर आए हैं, वो ब्रांड के ऊपर आए हैं, बीडीए के ब्रांड के ऊपर. So with more than 16,000 attendees and viewers of our webinars, we are sure that brand BDA is becoming bigger and more relevant in the industry. This shows the value of brand, and we feel we are in the right direction. We are sure that brand BDA, who is coming up with new things, as Digant said, real estate hi real hai, BDA, Gurukul, and many more things, surprises coming in the boxes of BDA in times to come, since lockdown has extended. So we'll surely share many things with our industry. So अपने को we have to, and now I come to real estate ही real है, तो एक real estate ही real है, we want to make it a brand for the industry which will help the industry to grow, to create positive sentiments. So अपने अपने branding जो just I said कि branding is important, तो साथ साथ में खुद की branding के साथ साथ अपने को industry की भी branding करनी है, where real estate ही real है का branding अपने को we have to take it to the national level. In all our webinars we are saying. So this today's webinar is completely on branding. जो अपने को mind में thought process है कि branding महंगा है, branding redevelopers को नहीं चाहिए, all these myths will be cleared by our key guest speaker today, Ritu Modi. We really welcome you. We also welcome our guest panelists have still not joined. They must be joining. They are from Gold Medal Group, electrical switch brand, a very big brand in today's national Indian market at national level. So guys, lastly I just say कि भाई हमने है ना सस खाली बिल्डिंग बनाने में रहे, बिल्डिंग बनाने के चक्कर में अपन टेनेंट्स के झंझट, नेगोशिएशन, उनको सेटलमेंट और फिर अप्रूवल्स, फिर रूल्स चेंज, उसके चक्कर में we have forgotten, we have lost ourselves. So let's create a brand for ourselves. Let people recognize us, what good thing we are doing to this city, and what recognition we can get through branding. So branding will be an important concept in times to come. So without taking further much of time, I would thank Digant and all the participants, and I welcome everyone over here for today's episode of our branding, and hope it's helpful to everyone today who is attending over here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Digant.
Thank you, Harish Bhai. Thank you for those words of wisdom. We are now going to call Neerav Bhai. Neerav Bhai, can you please introduce the guest speaker to our audience?
Thank you, Digant Bhai. Thank you, Harish Bhai. Harish Bhai, you are definitely right that BDA is growing leaps and bounds. And in the journey of 12 months, it has become a major brand, a very big brand to reckon with. And we will be more stronger with support of all our members. Now, today, as we have our guest speaker with us, she is a managing director and founder of Jigsaw Brand Consultants, Miss Rutu Modi Kamdar, a strategic branding and marketing consultancy. It focuses on consumer research, brands, and marketing strategies and communication designs. In her 18-year career span, Rutu has consulted several companies in India and those wanting to enter the Indian market. She has a deep understanding of human behavior and brand strategy. She's helped several companies launch, build, and grow brands through her unique strategies-based consultancy model. Rutu also writes, speaks, and teaches branding and consumer behavior in various universities across India, France, Germany, and Australia. She is a PhD in branding and a gold medalist, masters in advertising communications from Mumbai. Please give a round of applause to Dr. Rutu Modi Kamdar.
Thank you. Over to you, Ritu.
Hi, thank you so much for the invitation. I'll just very quickly share my screen and then we can get started. Okay, So first and foremost, thank you very much, Digant, and thank you very much the BDA committee for inviting me to speak at this webinar. I think it's a great initiative that you all have taken on to educate yourselves at a time like this, to keep your mind active, and to also, somehow manage to keep yourselves afloat with a lot of different kinds of perspectives that people like me can give you. So first and foremost, congratulations for taking these kind of initiatives. I think it's fantastic. And thank you for inviting me to speak on branding to all of you over here. Real estate is a space that I have very closely been associated with for the last almost 15 years or so. I have had the privilege of consulting with one of the top real estate builders in Mumbai, which is Rustomjee. Over the last 12 years, I have been very deeply associated with the Rustomjee group. And over and above that, also, I have also had the chance to consult several smaller real estate developers, and of course, along with that, a lot of other brands also. So real estate as a sector in itself, I feel I do have a lot of liking towards the sector because of the fact that I've spent a lot of time working on the sector. And this presentation, in fact, for me is, it's a presentation that I have made several times to a lot of real estate builders, because it's a mindset, and the shift of the mindset is something that I have been personally attempting to make for a very long period of time, to get real estate builders to actually understand what branding is. Yeah. One of the things that I always feel is that, companies like Procter and Gamble and Unilever, spend crores and crores of rupees on branding. And what is the product that they're branding? They're branding a soap. A soap which basically has no loyalty at all. A soap that you are going to, probably buy for about 30 rupees, 40 rupees, 50 rupees, and maybe use another brand in the next turn. But they spend crores and crores in actually building their brands and getting people to be associated with them, to get into a relationship with them. But unfortunately, real estate, which is actually the single largest purchase that a family is going to make, we don't spend that much on branding. We don't give this subject as much importance, which is why I have had this personal quest to actually try and spread this education on branding to a lot of real estate developers. And in whatever forums that have been possible, I have also tried to make this point on why and how branding is extremely important for an industry like yours. And I think more so now than ever. Yeah, this industry, I feel, and I'm sure this is something that you all know about and you all have been hearing, is that the entire industry has pivoted in the last, I would say, 20 years or so. The entire supply-led industry, the demand-led industry has suddenly now become a supply-led industry, where the supply far exceeds the demand. And because of this, every other developer is pretty much offering the same stuff. Yeah, every other developer is offering the same amenities, the same layouts, the same kinds of homes, and there's almost no differentiation in the product in itself. Yeah. Now, in a state like this, when you are left with all the products being the same, how does a customer really choose which brand or which project to buy into? And this is where branding actually comes alive. I am very tempted at this point to actually draw a parallel between, in the 1970s, the same thing actually happened for the rest of the industries, the rest of the world. And this turnaround actually happened. The concept of branding came about at that point of time. So if you remember, in the 1970s and 80s, and we've all grown up watching these ads and these brands, Cadbury's or Surf or Maruti 800, at that point of time, before that time, most companies felt that product quality was the only thing that was really required to build or to get customers to buy your product. So if you had a good detergent, or if you had a good car and a good quality product, that was all that was required to get customers to buy your brand, to buy your product. But over a period of time, when everybody started making good products of good quality became the norm. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what the case is in real estate also. Everybody talks about good quality. Everybody talks about good construction. Everybody's talking about good layouts, good, timely delivery. Of course, now with this, with RERA having come in, I don't think, even trust for that matter has become something that is normalized. Yeah, every developer out there who wants to be alive needs to make sure that they have timely delivery, and they have, they're keeping their word, because that is the industry norm now. Now, in a state like this, how does a company actually attract customers? How does a company actually get customers to believe that what they're saying is really, really true? How does a company actually get customers into a relationship where they're willing to actually spend, a premium? Now, this is the part where branding comes in. How do you get your customer to spend that premium? How do you get your future projects to be insured, where every single time that you launch a new project, you're not starting at ground zero. You're starting at a particular level where people know about you and are going to buy you because, or are going to get into a relationship with you because they know of you. This is where branding actually comes in. And in fact, like I said before also, in real estate, it is the single most important contract that the family will make with you. It is the single most important purchase that a consumer makes is real estate. Yeah, I mean, what they say, right? That the three most important events in a person's life. One is that he gets married, two is when he has a child, and three is when he buys a home. The first two are not transactional. They're not, they're not economic in nature. They're social in nature. But the third one, which is the transactional economic contract, which is where somebody is buying a product, is real estate. Real estate is the single most important product that a family, buys into, and which is why branding is extremely important over there. How does a consumer know that this brand is more better than the other brand? And that is where branding becomes an extremely important science. And it's an important part of, it's something that most other developers should be looking at very, very actively today. Now, in this case, I also feel that I want to actually, talk a little bit about Rustomji also with you, because I've had this journey for so many years with them. And yes, you may feel that it's a very big brand. So, what's the big deal of talking about hum to chote developers hai? We have small projects, we have small redevelopment projects. But when I started working with Rustomji, they were also a fairly small developer. And they were mostly bound to the northern parts of Mumbai, and they hardly had any projects down south. And at that point of time, it was a small family-run kind of a business. But they realized that branding was something that was going to be able to help them differentiate in the market. So they sat down and they actually thought through what is it that they stand for. They took the effort to say that, okay, this is who we are and this is what we stand for. And our Parsi pedigree and our sense of values and our ethics is something that we want to create as our brand. And that is what they realized, and that is what they created as the It's Thoughtful, It's Rustomji brand at that point of time. And they made sure that that entire story was consistent over a very, very long period. And after that, one project after the other project, they started growing in size, but they kept their brand and their communication and their message consistent. Now, this, according to me, is one of the key reasons why a company goes from small to big. This is one of the key reasons why a company starts thinking in a bigger way, because you're able to attract not only customers, but also the right kind of people to work for you. You're also able to attract the right kind of investors. You're also able to attract the right kind of stakeholders. And most importantly, your customers start believing in you because they realize that you stand for something. And standing for something, or having that sense of that this is who we are and this is what we want to tell the world, is one of the most important things. In fact, one of the developers that we worked with was a fairly, I would say a mid-sized developer in Bangalore. And in this very, very cluttered market of Bangalore, where there are so many real estate players, this was one developer who believed that he wanted to make sustainability his core principle. And he wanted to only build sustainable buildings where nature was a very integral part of all his offerings. So that was the common thread that he took along. And every single project was created keeping in mind, natural surroundings, not harming the environment, using sustainable practices. And that became the brand, and that became the raison d'etre of the brand. It became the core purpose of the brand. And everybody who bought into the brand also knew the brand because of what it stood for. Now, this is where branding becomes extremely important. Yeah. Now, you might also have a lot of, I would say, myths in your mind when it comes to branding. Now, this is something that I know of because, whenever I've spoken to a lot of companies, especially SMEs, MSMEs, or for that matter, even real estate developers, family-run businesses, there are a lot of myths around branding, a lot of misconceptions around branding, because most often than not, you would put it away and say that, abhi iski zarurat nahi hai, first let's build, let's construct, let's build, let's sell. बाद में branding जो होगा सो होगा. अभी कोई जरूरत नहीं है ये सब करने की. Yeah. So let me first break some of the myths, because that I feel is the biggest part of the hurdle. And if you're able to believe in that, you would have the hurdle crossed. So myth number 1 is branding is for big companies, not for me. I think one of the most common statements that I hear amongst these segments is कि हमारे लिए नहीं है, वो बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज करती है, हम नहीं करते हैं. And I feel that is a small company mindset. The reason why the company is small is because it thinks small. Branding is not about big company or small company. I have seen branding work for companies with 2 people, and I have seen branding work for companies with 20,000 people. So it is nothing to do with the size of the company. It has to do with inculcating a mindset, and inculcating the mindset at the board level, not putting it across as a marketing function, not saying कि okay, ये हमारा sales वाला बंदा जो है वो कर लेगा, हमारा marketing वाला जो बंदा है वो कर लेगा, हमें नहीं करना है ये सब. That is wrong, because branding starts at the leadership level. Branding starts at the board level. Look at some of the biggest brands in the world today. Look at a Steve Jobs, look at a Jeff Bezos, look at a Larry Page, Google wala jo hai jo, or look at closer home, look at brands like Tata. Look at brands which have their leadership who actually believe in the principle of branding and have incorporated this entire mindset at the leadership level itself. Because branding is a reflection of who you are. It is a reflection of your values. And your values coming alive. When Rustam ji said that they wanted to basically brand on the Parsi pedigree, which is thoughtfulness, which is ethics, which is lineage, which is what the Parsi lineage is all about, it was a reflection of the family. And that reflection of the family actually then translated into becoming a part of their core brand. So the myth that it's only for big companies is absolutely wrong. Anything and everything can be branded. Even people can be branded. Even organizations can be branded. Companies can be branded. Services can be branded. Ideas can be branded. Anything and everything can be branded. So it has nothing to do with the size of the company. The second most common myth over here is that it is about spending huge sums of money. It's expensive. I cannot afford it. वो सब again बड़ी companies करती है, बहुत crores of rupees चाहिए, because you have to do advertising, you have to do this thing. In fact, let me also break some myths for you. Some of the largest companies in the world have never done advertising. Advertising is just one part of branding. Advertising is a way to spread your message. Branding is not equal to advertising. Advertising is one of the methods that you will use to brand yourself. And if you don't want to use that method, there are several other methods that you can use, which I'm going to be showing you in the next few slides. Brands like Starbucks, सबसे बड़ी brand coffee chain, has never used advertising. Brands like Rolls-Royce have never used advertising. Now, these are large brands that I'm talking about. And for that matter, several other brands also that I'm sure you have come across, who have never used advertising as a part of their marketing plan. So branding is not expensive. Again, it is about making sure that once you have your core idea and your core purpose put down, you're making sure that that gets inculcated as a part of the culture of your entire organization. So how you hire people, how you train them, how you answer your phone, how your how your emails are written, how your communication goes out to your customers, how your salesperson addresses your walk-ins, your prospects, the ethics that you show when you're actually constructing your projects. All of these little things are ultimately your brand. Every single touch point that the customer comes in touch with your product or your company is your brand. And that doesn't have to be expensive. It could be anything and everything. And if you have a consistent way in which you can manage all of this, it is not expensive at all. I have seen companies being able to create brands in absolutely frugal budgets because they have a belief that this is something that they want to do, and they try and use all the simplest of methods to make sure that their core customer or their market whom they want to brand themselves to is able to understand themselves. Myth number 3 is that branding is time consuming. There's no point in spending on branding. It's just better that we release a few quick ads. Abhi ek project shuru hua hai, let us just release a few ads. Wo ads release karne se, there will be walk-ins. Redevelopment ka project hai, then all we need to do is probably send out a couple of SMSs, WhatsApps, apna site branding ho jayega, and that's about it. Aur kuch karne ki zarurat nahi hai. This is also a myth, because ultimately when we look at branding, it is not a one-time affair. It is not something कि आप अभी एक program branding का करना है और कर लो और खत्म कर दो. It is a ongoing effort. Just the way in which you invest in financial management in your company, just the way in which you invest in human resource management, operations, systems, you have to invest in branding also. So you have to make sure that that particular principle is becoming a part of your organization. It's not a one-time thing. It is a continuous, consistent thing. When we create brands for companies, we make sure that over a longer period of time, we are hand-holding them, and everything that they speak, everything that they communicate ultimately should carry their brand's language. So it has nothing to do with time. And in fact, you should not waste the time when you have it. The myth number 4 is, if sales are good, I don't need branding. One more thing here is always this thing about sales and marketing. Always एक fight रहता है. Marketing को लगता है, अब sales को लगता है कि marketing की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. हम बिकवा देंगे. और sales और marketing को लगता है कि sales की जरूरत नहीं है. Marketing के वजह से ही जो हो रहा है वो हो रहा है. Now, sales and marketing are two separate functions, but they are two coexistent functions. These are two things that need to come together. In a lot of companies, आपके company में भी शायद sales और marketing अलग functions नहीं होंगे. They might be the same function. And आप sales के ही बंदे को बोलते हैं कि marketing भी करो और branding भी करो, and that is absolutely fine. But the thing here is that what you really need to realize is that it is not just the immediate sale that you need to look at. You need to be able to create future sales. And that is where branding becomes extremely important. You need to make sure that the brand, your equity is rising. You need to make sure that every time the customer comes to you, he will be willing to pay that marginal premium. I know everybody talks about the fact that, the square feet price in a particular area, we have to be competitive. ऐसा कोई, chance ही नहीं है कुछ करने का. But trust me, when it comes to creating a brand, if you have created a strong brand, you will be able to get your customer to buy you at a premium if he actually believes in who you are. And that is where branding becomes important. That is where trust becomes important. Quality, the fact that you will keep your promise, the fact that you're a good builder, the fact that you have a sustained and a consistent way of communicating, because the customer then remembers you for something. That is where it becomes extremely important. So you're ensuring yourself for future sales. You're building yourself in terms of equity. You're building your brand value. And therefore, investors also would get attracted in you. And myth number 5 is, show me the returns that I spend on. I want to see ROI. If I'm doing branding, I want to see ROI and I want to see it fast. माने आज मैंने जो invest किया है, उसके वजह से कल walk-ins होंगे कि नहीं, उसके वजह से कल sales होंगे कि नहीं. कल के महीने में sales दिखेंगे कि नहीं? Now that is also a big myth. Yeah, because branding is a long-term affair. Sales is short-term, tactical. जो आज आपने किया, आपने कोई 5 SMS, I mean 50 SMS डाल दिए, उसकी वजह से आपके walk-ins हुए, that is all tactical. वो शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए है, मगर वहां से ब्रांड नहीं बिल्ड होती है, वहां से आपकी वैल्यू नहीं बिल्ड होती है, वहां से आपका प्रॉमिस नहीं बिल्ड होता है. Branding is long term. Branding is something that you need to make sure that you're consistently doing day in and day out, and the results of that will be long term. And I have seen that working with several brands. Now, of course, in the real estate space, I have the live example of brands like Rustamji, whom I've worked with, but even in other sectors. I think one of the brands that I can also talk about is Natural Ice Creams, which I'm sure all of you know about, a brand that I have had the chance to work on, and the entire pivot and the turnaround of Natural Ice Cream was what I have seen the journey for. Again, a brand which was a family run business, small business. Juhu scheme में आइसक्रीम पार्लर था, और वो when they created the brand, they entirely pivoted the entire organization's thinking, and over a period of time they were able to command that kind of premium. Yeah. So what is a brand? Now coming back to that question of what is a brand and how do I do it? Why, while all of this sounds very, very exciting and interesting and all that, how do I do it? How do I actually inculcate this particular? So the brand, like I said before, is a mix of emotions, experiences, stories, associations, touch. Every single touch point that your consumer will come into touch with you is ultimately your brand. Everything. Right from your brochure to your PR article, to you yourself talking, to your delivery, to your timeliness, to the way in which your receptionist answers the phone, to your website, your SMSs, your advertisements, your paper inserts, every single thing is your brand. And it's an entire mix of all of these things that the customer holds in his mind. You may think कि लोग भूल जाते हैं, but नहीं भूलते हैं. When you go down and you buy something, let's say you want to buy a car, which is the first car that you think about. The first car that comes to your mind, if I say, which is the, if I tell you that you can go out and buy a car, which is the first brand that you think of? That brand, the first brand that you thought of was the brand that you have created a whole lot of associations for, and those associations have worked in favor, where the brand has become top of mind for you. And ultimately, it will help you in your decision making. So having said this, I want to get down to actually some very simple steps to get this right. Because at the end of this, we all want to leave back with this, 5 steps to get it right. And what are those 5 steps? So before I get into the 5 steps, I also want to clarify one more thing here, is that when we talk about real estate, we are talking about 2 levels of branding. So we are saying corporate brand, which is your company brand. And then we are saying project brand. Yeah. Corporate brand, which is your company brand, is your long-standing foundational piece, which will stay consistent for a very long period of time. It is your story. It is your vision. It is your values. It is who you are. It is your legacy. It is your lineage. Your corporate brand is the foundation of your entire organization. And that is the most important part of your brand. But your projects will keep changing. Every few years, you will have more and more projects. You may have parallelly, you may be running 2 or 3 projects at a time. Now, in this case, how do you brand and what do you brand? So while your corporate brand is something that always needs to be consistent, your project brand will always have a new story, because sometimes it may be about location, sometimes it may be about type of building or type of project, sometimes it may be about layout. So your project story may keep changing, but your corporate brand remains the same. What you need to do is you need to make sure that in every form of communication, your corporate brand needs to have at least 30 to 40% of the of screen presence. You need to make sure that your corporate brand is getting built, because both these things have to be built together. Your project brand is actually giving a platform to your corporate brand to get built. Your project brand, every time you're advertising your project brand, you're in effect building your corporate brand also. And you need to use this opportunity to build your corporate brand, because otherwise you may not have the budgets to just do corporate advertising. Yeah, none of us have that kind of budget or that kind of deep pockets to just release, huge amounts of communication on just building corporate branding. So make sure that 30 to 40% of screen presence, whenever you're doing project marketing, you're dedicating it to your corporate brand. And then make it a combination. So corporate brand and project brand should always appear together. So, for example, it is Rustamji Urbania. I'm using the example of Rustamji because that's the brand that I'm talking about, but it's Rustamji Urbania. So Rustamji always becomes constant and Urbania becomes the project brand. Yeah. So the first step here is to understand your customer. Now, this actually understanding your customer, when we talk about branding, this goes back before you even start conceptualizing your project. It is not something that you only need to think about when you're trying to sell. This is the biggest mistake that most real estate developers make. They feel that customers ko kabhi bulana hai. When do customers actually become a realization? When I need to sell my project. But that is wrong. Before you actually create your product, go out and speak to your customers. Go out and understand your customers' sentiments. Go out and understand what your customer really wants. We've had the chance to do these very interesting researches amongst customers. We recently did something in Bhayandar. We've done work in Daisar. We've done work in Thane. And we've really tried to go deep into understanding what customers want. Now, when we did this work in Thane and we were building this project for mid-income families, what we realized was that your customer was your mid-income, middle-class consumer aged between 28 to 40 years of age. Now, 28 to 40 का मतलब ये है कि उसकी शादी हो चुकी है, उसके छोटे बच्चे हैं, right? Now, छोटे बच्चे हैं, उसका मतलब ये है कि the biggest anxiety that this customer has is about his children, is about making sure that he is giving his children the right kind of childhood. Because parents को हमेशा एक anxiety रहती है कि मैंने जैसा childhood देखा है वो मेरे children नहीं देख रहे हैं. पूरा दिन कंप्यूटर पे रहते हैं, पूरा दिन टीवी देखते हैं और मेरे जैसा चाइल्डहुड नहीं देख पाते हैं. Now that is one of the things that we found out as a issue that we saw, an anxiety that we saw, and we said that why don't we actually create an entire project where families can live, where they can spend real quality time and where children can live an unbounded kind of a childhood. And that is where the whole concept of childhoods available came about, where we said that create a project where you have a school in the layout, where you have open parks, where you have playgrounds, where you have a play center, where children can come down and actually engage. There's a library for children. There is a space for them to play and indulge in activities. Now, this may be something that I'm talking about is a slightly bigger project, but the same concept can even apply to a smaller project. Why can't you have a creche for children? Why can't you have a small library for children, a small playroom for children? Why can't, suppose the same idea was to be incorporated in a redevelopment project, the same concept can be also brought about. And there's a story, because we found out that customers are actually requiring this. So understanding your customers is one of the most important things that you need to do. Don't create a product and then try to sell it. And that is the biggest mistake that we make, is that we create a product thinking about what we want to create or what we think the market will want, without having a real idea about what customers want. And in fact, I've seen this in real estate to a great extent. How many people actually use swimming pools? How many people actually use, the gyms maybe, but swimming pool is one of the most overrated amenities that builders give. Now, yes, it is an amenity that people look out for because they are used to seeing it in all other projects, but how many people actually go down and swim in those swimming pools? Yeah. And it is one of those things that we have not used our understanding for. We have not really gone in and seen what is it that people actually want. Putting the customer at the center of the process will help you build a brand or build a product that the customer wants. And you will also then be able to build your brand and your marketing as per what he is looking for or what he is requiring. The step 2 is build your unique and relevant differentiation. Once you've understood what your customer wants, then try and create your story which is different from the rest. which is what the customer has not seen. Now, whether that story has to do with nature, with its sustainability, with technology, with childhoods, with family time, or whatever that story is, with luxury, whatever that story is, but create something that is absolutely different and unique and relevant to your customers' needs. Remember, the words are unique, relevant. Relevant means that only after having understood what the customer wants, then you can go out and build something relevant, which is why the first step is very, very important, and build something that is different. Step number 3 is train your team. One of the very important things to do is making sure that whether it's your customer service representatives or your sales team, make sure that they know about what your story is. What is your brand story all about? So that when they're talking to the customer, they're speaking the right language. They are not trying to just sell the product based on, the things that the customer is not looking for or not on your brand. Make sure that they are actually able to communicate your brand story. Make sure that they believe in your brand story first. And which is why training your team and making sure that they internalize the brand is very, very important at this stage. And the next step is to communicate. Now, again, when I said communicate, please remember that communication is, you could do many things. Yeah, it is not just one of the things. It is not just advertising like most other people. Most people feel that advertising is one of the only ways to communicate and we can't afford it, so kuch mat karo. Every single touch point that you can use that to communicate. So I'm going to actually use this chance to show you one funnel, what we call it the lead funnel or the customer journey. So you start off with a prospect and then you go on to a lead. So prospect is somebody who's, let's say, looking for a project. Lead is somebody who actually calls you up or puts a lead onto your website. Then from the lead, he becomes a walk-in because he comes onto your site and he looks at your site. From your walk-in, he becomes a revisit. He may come in once more, he may come in twice more. And then from a revisit, he becomes a customer. And from a customer, he becomes a patron. Patron means that he actually talks about your brand to other people and he brings in more and more people. Now, at each stage, if you really look at it, there are many options open available to you. So at the prospect stage, where you are trying to, look at all the different things that are possible to attract people to you, everything from digital marketing, which is SEO, SEM, display, social, or paper inserts, local paper inserts. Just choose a particular geographic area and do good quality paper inserts there, and that should be good enough. If you have the budgets and the money to spend on a paper ad, do a paper ad, but make sure frequency is very important here. If you do one advertisement and you leave it at that, there will be absolutely no equity built over there. The rule of the thumb in advertising is that you need to have frequency. You need to keep showing the message over and over again. So you need to have a budget that is enough for you to show the message multiple amounts of time. Outdoors is another thing you can do. See, outdoors also, there are many different types of outdoors. You don't need to just go with those large hoardings. You can do localized outdoors. You can do kiosks. Kiosks are those pole kiosks that you can show, which are absolutely localized. You can even do, bus shelters. You can do rickshaw backs. Now, all these forms of communication, there is nothing wrong with doing this kind of communication, because what you're doing is you're building brand visibility. You're getting your project to be seen by more and more people, and you're getting it seen more and more number of times. When the brand gets seen more and more number of times, that is when actual equity building happens. When people will start knowing you and remembering you, and they will come to you. You can do WhatsApps, SMSs, and of course you can communicate to channel partners. Now, channel partner communication could be through multiple ways. Having one-on-one meetings with them, giving them enough material, or calling them for channel partner meets, depending on your budget. All of this is possible. The second thing here is a lead. When he becomes a lead, that is when telecalling becomes important. So make sure that there is a right script that is given to your telecallers. Make sure that that script has your brand's ethos and your brand language. Make sure that your website is up to date. Your microsite is up to date. Make sure you have an e-brochure, because every time somebody calls you up, you're able to send that e-brochure to that person and you're able to get them to see your product. Then he becomes a walk-in. At this point of time, site experience becomes the most important part. How does he navigate your site? What does your site communicate? What are the kind of communications that are there on your site? How does your sales personnel talk to him? What kind of an experience does he leave back with? What is a brochure? What is your presentation? We spend a lot of money on brochures. The real estate industry feels that making these fancy brochures is the most important thing in branding. It's not. These brochures, yes, they create an impression initially, but there are many other things that you need to do in branding and marketing apart from just creating a brochure. And you need to do that. Even your site branding is very important, because your site branding, the periphery, what you create, is also a very good form of outdoor advertising. Then he moves into a revisit. He may not buy instantly. He may come once, twice, 2, 3 times. And this is where your communication needs to become very, very strong. When he goes from becoming a walk-in to a revisit, your sales personnel should be sending him very, very personalized, customized emailers, WhatsApps, SMSs to call him back, to get him to come back. Now, either these could be offers or these could be brand stories that he's using to come back to you. Another thing that we have seen working is experiential marketing or events. Now, this is where at your site, if you can organize some kind of an experience where people can come and people can experience your site. If your terrace is ready, you can have an event on your terrace. If your site office is good enough, you can actually have an event in your site office. And these could be any kind of events. If your brand is talking about luxury, then have a luxury event, have a wine evening, or have a exhibition, or have anything that will actually invite the luxury customer to your event. The other thing here is then he becomes a customer. At this point of time, the entire handover experience, how is your handover experience? Do you have a good referral and incentive program that you can create? Where he is able to actually attract more people. And then he becomes a patron, where a loyalty program or a regular form of communication to create, where he becomes a part of your family. Make sure that he becomes a part and you're able to create long-term relationship with him. And this is where your entire lead funnel, small, and if you look at the kind of activities that I've talked about, none of these activities is something that is going to cost you a lot of money. So it is not expensive. And these are things that you can very easily get done. But make sure that your brand language, your tonality, your message remains consistent. Another thing that I wanted to also talk about is that when we are doing this kind of marketing, remember 30% should be spent on brand building. And this includes PR, social media, website, blogs, industry events, experiential events, content marketing. And about 70% should be spent on tactical marketing. When I say tactical marketing, I mean that whatever money you're spending, you need to see a return on that money. You need to see how many calls have come in because of that money spent, how many walk-ins have come in because of that money spent. Whereas at 30% that I'm talking about, which is spending on brand building, please do not look at returns over there. Do not look at any kind of ROI coming from there. Think about that money as an investment, which is for a future purpose where your equity is getting built. And also, don't not spend that money. Please do spend that money, because this is where your brand is being built for a long-term period. The 70% that you're spending over here, while it is tactical, remember, it is also building long-term brand equity. So don't ever look at advertising or don't ever look at communication, which is tactical, which is saying, come now, buy right now, because offer is running out and, limited period offers and all. These are very tactical forms of this thing where you're not building any brand story at all. Don't do things like that. Try and make sure that you keep your, keep your foundation very strong, keep your message very strong, make sure that you're sustaining yourself on that brand message, because that ultimately will build long-term brand equity. And the last step is the measurement. Yeah, very often marketing, or branding is something you may feel doesn't need to be measured or can't be measured, but that's wrong. Every single money that is spent on, every single rupee that is spent on branding and marketing can be measured. And how do you measure it? We have something called leads. Measure your leads to walk-ins. So measure the ratio. How many leads did you get? How many walk-ins did you get because of those leads? How many calls did you get? How many calls resulted in walk-ins? How many walk-ins did you get? How many walk-ins resulted in bookings? and also look at how many leads resulted in bookings. Keep measuring these metrics because this will give you an idea of what is working and what is not working. Also look at number of revisits. How many revisits have happened in a month? If there are too many revisits, that means that you need to build your strategy around getting people to come back over and over again. If it's a luxury project, if it's a high price project, you will see that number of revisits will be higher. You will also see that average time taken to book will be higher. In a smaller project with a lower budget or a lower ticket price, you will see that the average time that will be taken will be about 30 to 40 days. But in a luxury project, you will see that that time will become longer and longer. So look at all of these metrics. Look at the channel that they are coming through. Is your advertising working? Is your SMS working? Is your WhatsApp working? Is your digital marketing working? Is your channel partner working? What are those channels which are actually working? Because that will give you an idea of how to really go about choosing the right mediums. Finally, in conclusion, I will say that, this is actually a strange time. Yeah, COVID-19 and the whole Corona period that we are all facing right now is a very strange period. And there are lots and lots of theories and postulations on what is going to happen after the Corona time. People are going to start living differently. The world is going to change. There is going to be a before Corona and an after Corona, and all kinds of theories are floating around. Yeah. And everybody is trying to theorize on what is going to happen to the world after Corona. In fact, I feel real estate, I know that real estate is right now in a state where nobody's looking at buying a home at this point of time. But please realize that your customer is living in closest proximity to your product during the lockdown. So this is actually a blessing in disguise for you, for all those people, for all those customers who are thinking of buying a new home but have not taken the decision yet. Because what is happening right now is that in this 40-day period, we have realized all the pain points of living in an imperfect home. We have realized what it means to live in a good society, what it means to live in a good home, a good layout, a bigger house with better facilities. We have realized these things. And the sector that will bounce back with this deep consumer realization is real estate. So I would, in fact, end this with saying that while this may seem like a period of great storm and great turmoil and great difficulty, in fact, this is the period where this sector can make a huge turnaround if they play their cards right. So that's all I have to say. I hope this session has been useful for you. And I hope, the parts that I've spoken about are things that you can use in your business. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rutu. That was a very, very nice and an in-depth analysis of branding. And before we move on to the question answer session, we have among us a guest panelist, Mr. Bishen Jain, and he is basically the managing director of Golden Electricals, a company that was formed in 1979. It's a leader in electrical switches and accessories, and it has a wide range of products, including switches, home automation systems, security system, entertainment devices, doorbells. So I will invite Bishen Jain to please come and speak a few words on your company and give us a brief on that. Mr. Bishen Jain.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. It was a very nice presentation. I loved the presentation given by Dr. Rutu Kanda. Gold Medal as a company, I don't know how many people are aware about it. I'm sure there are people who are going to be aware about it. We formed the company in 1979 with the aim to create a difference in the mind of the customers. And since 1979, we have been transforming from, we started manufacturing of wires and cables, and slowly and steadily we started with switches, and now we are doing home automations, LED lights, fans, and everything. As a company size, if you say, we are present in all 28 states of India. And we have our own office and a team force of more than 1,100 people across. The company as a whole is doing good in the market. We believe strongly in branding and innovation. Our main focus when it comes to branding has always been innovation. We are known much in the market for innovation in the products what we manufacture. There are a lot of developments in the company which are happening, and this is the right time where more and more research is going on, because we have got enough time during this COVID period where people are positive, that the R&D team is quite positive about it, because they're getting more and more time in researching things and all. Hello?
Yeah, Digant, can you take over, please?
Yeah, Shania, are you done? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to move on to the Q&A section. I'll call Mr. Rohit Patil to please give please throw some questions on to Rutu regarding branding.
Thanks, Digant. And good evening,
Rutu, can we
Ritu.
see you? Can you on the screen, please?
Yeah, good evening, Rutu. Yeah, before I start my questions, I must say fantastic presentation.
Thank
I
you.
mean, in breaking the myths that we developers have usually about branding. And I'm sure you must have answered most of the questions that participants today have in their mind. But however, I still have a couple of questions for you. So my first question to you is, basically in redevelopment projects, that developers usually have to face two type of customers. Unlike a normal developer जो land projects करता है, he has to also consider flat buyers, and there's another set of customer which he deals regularly is the society and society members. So what we would like to understand from your end is, how do we effectively use branding to target this both set of customers, that is society members and also the flat buyers? Yeah, thank you.
So, so I understand that redevelopment basically is talking to, two segments of customers. One is a customer who needs to basically believe that you will be the right builder to take on their project. Yeah. And this is actually where corporate branding becomes very, very important, because they have a lot of, appeals from many different builders that they can choose from. And when it comes to deciding on who should be the developer, one of the big things that becomes a factor of consideration is the corporate brand. So the corporate brand and the equity that the corporate brand enjoys, the legacy that the corporate brand enjoys, the fact that the builder is a known builder, not just known from a local point of view, but known in terms of that, okay, these people, there is a particular story associated with this builder. There is a particular kind of, they even though the builder may be small, but they appear big in the sense that they appear sound, they appear, their foundation is strong. I think these are the very critical things that work for redevelopment kind of projects, because that is really how the redevelopment member is choosing the builder for the project. Of course, then the rest of the project, the rest of the customer is your regular customer, which probably is not a very high percentage sometimes. But I think the entire branding approach needs to be looked at in two phases over here. So the first phase is trying to convince the society and getting them to, let you take over the project. That is the first part of it. And the second phase is in attracting external buyers to buy into the project. So the first phase is where your corporate branding will become important, and the second phase is where your project brand will become important.
Thanks, Ritu. My second question is, considering most of the developers involved in redevelopment usually have this marketing budget constraints, and
Yeah.
they have to work around that. So one of the questions that we would have is, can we only do project branding and not carry out corporate branding?
So Rohit, in fact, that's exactly what I mentioned before, is that I understand that there is a shortage of budget, and therefore you may feel that I can do either one or the other. But my point is that never make that mistake, because your project brand is giving you the opportunity to create your corporate brand. Your project brand is actually giving you the chance to give your corporate brand screen presence, because otherwise you will not go out and spend that money on building your corporate brand. So look at these two things coming together. They're not either or. You have to do both things together. So if you're creating a brand, if you're creating, if you're marketing your project brand, make sure that you have also given enough weightage to your corporate brand. And yes, for the first time, if you do it, people may not know about your corporate brand. but it will start getting known if you do it over and over and over again. Yeah. Another thing here is also it's chicken and egg. That what is it that we do first? So always make it, I mean, my this thing is that just go for it for the first time. And then once you do it, it will start rolling and it will start reaping in terms of its benefits.
Thanks a lot, Rutu. Over to you, Digant.
Yeah. My next panelist is Dhananjay. Dhananjay, you can shoot your questions.
I congratulate you on a fantastic presentation. I have a couple of questions for you. My first question is, for most of us, there are phases in which all or most of our projects are in approval
Correct.
phase, right?
Yes.
So this does not allow our market to be projected as stipulated in RERA.
Yes.
So in certain cases, these approvals take more than a year or so.
Correct.
Branding, as you said, is an ongoing process. There should be a frequency which we should set our goals to, right? So what can we do to ensure that these brands and the whatever marketing we've done stay relevant in the minds of the customer in these brief periods of no activity?
So this is so again, in RERA does not allow you to market your product before the registration ends up happening. But once again, corporate branding is something that you can continue to do over a longer period of time. Now, the kind of things that you can do is PR is one of the things that definitely works over a longer period of time. Content marketing, social media marketing is something that works. Having a newsletter. See, I'm giving very simple ideas, which are very possible to implement. Having a newsletter or creating a newsletter with the things that you are doing or the kind of development that you're doing can become one of the things. Doing experiential marketing, creating events or participating in industry events or exhibitions is also one of the things that you can continue to do. In the period when your project brand is not active, you can do all of these below the line activities. And this is where, so what happens is that you're doing all these below the line activities at that point of time. And when your project brand comes on into the limelight, you're not starting from ground zero then. You're starting from a particular period where people already know, acha, ye inka project hai, inka to suna hua hai. It's like that. And today, in fact, if you look at it, digital really offers you the potential to build your brand in a very cost-effective way. I think you all had a digital marketing webinar last week also, and you must have seen that, gone are the days when mass media was the only way to market yourself. Today, you can create a brand even in a very hyper-localized manner. And, being able to actually cater to the people who matter the most. So if, let's say, you have a project in BKC, then you can create a brand only amongst the BKC consumer segment. It doesn't need for you to have a national presence or a citywide presence, which is expensive. So try and do things which are hyper localized. Hyper targeting is something that you can do. These are the ways that you can actually build equity before your project brand gets launched, so that when the project brand gets launched, it works better.
Thank you. My next question is, what are the most common mistakes a developer can make or generally makes while getting onto this journey of brand building? If you could elaborate on that, that would be helpful.
Okay. I think all of those 5 myths that I spoke about, I think every single one of them is what developers make. I mean, I've seen this happening across all my clients. I think developers are always trying to put away branding, marketing, thinking it's an unnecessary expense. They don't believe in it because they feel that they're making great products, they're making great buildings, they're using, and I think developers as a community are so there's so much of focus on the building itself, on the product itself. I don't think there's any focus on building or creating a brand or creating ways to sell your brand. I don't think developers do that at all. So, and I think it's a very, very myopic way to look at it, saying that, okay, this is how I will build my product, and that's all that matters to me. So I think, some of the mistakes that I have seen developers making, and I see that even with big companies, is that you feel that you may not need this because big jayega. क्या जरूरत है ये सब करने की, क्या जरूरत है, बिक जाएगा, उसमें कुछ बहुत फर्क नहीं पड़ने वाला है. All of this is right, where up to a point you will see that things will sell. When the market is going good, things will sell. Once the market slows down, that is where we end up getting hit. Yeah, that is where, and we are not able to command premium. That is the other problem that happens. And we are not able to build equity. So look at this as a long-standing, sustained kind of an effort that you start needing to create, and you will see the results reaping benefits for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll call Kiran Bhai Rambia.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. It was an excellent presentation. And in the conclusion, as you rightly said, that what is going to happen post COVID, we are unaware. We don't know. So I would like to ask this question: that will there be a change in brand pattern post COVID?
You mean brand pattern, as in the way in which we actually brand
Yeah.
ourselves?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that more and more developers start realizing the need for branding post COVID, and are able to actually create stronger brands with a deeper understanding of consumer needs. And I think that will happen post COVID, because across industries, if you look at the pharmaceutical industry, you look at the foods industry, you look at the automobile sectors, these are all sectors who are very closely studying consumer sentiment at this point of time. They're looking at how consumers are going to shift their purchasing patterns. Real estate also needs to do that. Real estate also needs to look at how people are living in their homes. What are the kind of things that they need? What are their pain points? Unko kahan taklife hoti hai? I think real estate players also need to look at this very, very closely. And if you are able to look at this closely, then you will be able to build according to that. You will be able to create products which are tuned into consumer sentiment. And I see a big shift where I feel that the real estate sector will also start becoming far more professional, far more, I would say, consumer-led, rather than supplier-led. I think that shift is going to happen, because there's no other way but this, going forward.
Okay. Thank you, Rutuji. Over to Digant Bhai.
I'll call upon Nirav Bhai. Nirav Bhai, can you please? You need to unmute.
Thank you, madam, for sharing all the insights of branding with us. I have a question. Could you suggest certain cheaper platforms to create a good brand rather than the outdoor or print media, which is very expensive?
So I think a lot of the ones that I showed you right now, print and this thing, only two of the huge list that I showed you, in fact. So digital is definitely one of them. Again, digital also, you need to use it wisely. You need to make sure that digital is not something that you end up just using where you spend, you're looking at leads, but the quality of leads is also very important. So when it comes to building your brand, I think your website, your social media, your digital presence, your content marketing, your PR, your blogs, your articles, your site branding, your site experience, your training of the sales staff, your brochure, your presentation, everything is important. I mean, I can keep going on, and I don't think I'll finish. So what I'm trying to say is that advertising is just one of those things, but the list is so long that I think I would, I can't finish. Every touch point is important when it comes to branding, and these are not expensive things. These are things that you may be doing it already, but you need to make sure that you're looking at it from a brand point of view. You're doing it from a branding lens.
Thank you. And could you suggest, is PR as important as advertising in branding, or we can go with advertising only?
I think there's a network issue. Ritu, can you hear us? You'll have to unmute, Ritu.
Yeah. Sorry, I lost connection. Yeah.
Yeah. Is PR equally important, or the advertising can take care of branding?
See, PR is today, in fact, PR has changed a lot as an industry. Today, a lot of, PR is something where you will only get published in the news if you have something newsworthy to talk about. आप नया बिल्डिंग बना रहे हो और आपका first slab बना है or whatever it is, I mean, your milestones that you've crossed, nobody's going to publish those kind of stories. Only if you have something interesting to say, if you have something exciting to say, if you're doing something beyond, only then you will get published. So make sure that if you are onboarding any PR agency, make sure that you are going to commit to actually creating those newsworthy news before you get a PR agency on. Because just no PR agency is going to be able to get you in the news. Yeah. So make sure that that doesn't happen. PR and advertising, again, are two of the 200 things that you should be doing when it comes to branding.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Thanks,
Digant?
Nirav. Yeah, thank you. I'll call Dhruval to. Dhruval, can you please pose your questions? Dhruval, we can't hear you. You'll need to unmute. No. I think your earphones are not working. You'll probably have to remove them. I think we've lost him. So
Then why don't we move on to the next question?
Okay. So Rutu, there's a question that I have. I'll pose it to you. If a developer has two locations, one is a little low-cost housing kind of project, and the other is a luxury project, then in that case, does it dilute the luxury brand? And if yes, what do we go about? How do we go about this? Okay.
So this is actually a good question, and this is one of the things that we are battling with in a big way with a lot of our clients. In fact, this is a problem for the industry, because real estate is a very opportunistically led industry. Yeah, where you will go in and the project that you will go in for is something that you see an opportunity in, and you may not really be thinking of it strategically. Even though you may strategically be thinking that I will only get into, let's say, mid-size or mid-income projects. If the opportunity arises for something, let's say, affordable or luxury, you will do it. And because of that, your brand has to stretch. So this is a classic problem of brand stretch that ends up happening. Now, a lot of brands have had this problem, and it's always a problem when you have two projects at two different ends of the spectrum. One is where you have something at a luxury end of the spectrum, which is, let's say, 10 crore, 15 crore, 20 crore kind of a home. And you have something at the absolute affordable end of the segment, which is your this thing. So I've seen this problem happening, and honestly, there's no right answer for it, but I can give you my perspective on it. When this kind of a thing happens, you need to look at future vision. You need to look at what is it that as a company you want to do in the future. If in the future you want to continue to remain in the luxury space and you want to grow your brand in terms of value, you want to make sure that you're attracting more and more luxury consumers because you see the market going in that direction, then it makes sense to actually break out and create two separate brands, one for the affordable segment and one for the luxury segment, simply so that your luxury customer doesn't end up getting affected with seeing your affordable portfolio. Yeah. But if, for example, you don't have a vision of getting into luxury segment and you want to remain in the mid-income or the this thing, and luxury project is just one-off as a project, then again what you can do is your corporate brand can be associated with your mid-income and your affordable segment, and your luxury project can hive off as a standalone project. And a lot of brands have done that. I mean, you see Lodha, you've seen Tata Housing, you've seen a lot of these brands which have actually gone ahead, and Mahindra. So like a Happy Nest becomes a separate part of the overall Mahindra portfolio. Or in the case of Lodha also, the Altamont becomes a separate part of the overall portfolio. The Park is a separate part of the portfolio. Yeah. So where they use the Lodha name and where they don't use the Lodha name is really strategically driven by the vision of the company on what you want to be 5 years down the line. If you want to be in luxury, then make sure that you create all necessary luxury associations for yourself, and for the mid-income or the lower income or the affordable housing, try and create a separate brand or just hide it off your portfolio. And just
sub-brands.
Have a small this thing saying that coming from the house of Mahindra, for example.
Okay.
And it's much smaller in terms of the weightage that you give. Your corporate brand then gets a lesser weightage.
Okay. So you also said something about the experiential marketing and sort of that helps in brand building.
Yeah.
So I think you said about something about your entrance. I mean your sales office being good and create like a
Experience.
your experience there. So a little more detail on exactly what is experiential branding, because I think a lot of people probably don't know what experiential is. If you can just give a little more brief and explain us.
Sure. See, experiential branding actually is about creating a 360-degree experience about your brand in a physical built space, right? So this could be your sales office. So your sales office itself could actually become an experiential center. So rather than it just being an office where a transaction takes place, get your customer to actually experience what that property is going to look like or what it's going to feel like. So everything from the way in which it is designed, to the kind of music that's playing, to the kind of smells that are there, to the kind of decor, to the kind of artifacts that you have there, everything can be created in a particular experiential manner. Another thing that you can also do apart from just your site experience is you could have events. So like I said, if you have, let's say, a luxury project and you're trying to attract a very high end kind of a clientele, then having these, very, very private, high end kind of events where wine and cheese events, or, art exhibitions or collector item exhibitions or something like that, where you can host those in your, see, because you have the luxury of space. Real estate is already with you.
Correct.
Right? Always make it a point to get your customer to your site. Don't call them outside somewhere. That is one of the, if you have the possibility to host people at your site in whatever way possible, get them to your site. Because that is your chance to get them to actually see your site. So in fact, my recommendation would always be that try and create, first thing that you do, forget about advertising and all of those things. First thing that you should do is create a good site experience. And use that site experience to have more and more people come in and organize these small events which are talk worthy, so that you're able to get people onto your site.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I'll move on to my next question. We've come across cult brands, like in other industries like Apple and Harley Davidson, and there's so much excitement with the consumers that they keep talking about that brands. There are Harley Davidson clubs, their bikers are there. So is it possible to make such a brand in real estate? And principally, what are the essence of a cult brand? Like what are the main factors that contribute to a cult brand, and whether that's possible in real estate?
I genuinely think it's possible. I mean, earlier, in fact, people thought that cult branding was something that, only the Harley Davidsons and all could do. But today I feel that cult branding is everywhere. I mean, even Facebook has become a cult brand today. Even WhatsApp has become a cult brand today. Spotify has become a cult brand. Netflix has become a cult brand. What is a cult brand? A cult brand is a brand which you have formed a deep sense of relationship with. A brand which has managed to enter your life, and a brand whose values you consider your own. You're in love with that brand. Basically, you cannot think of your life beyond that brand. So when Harley Davidson actually created, they were not selling the best bikes. There were many other bikes out there which were much better than the Harleys, but they created a brand and they created a cult. They created a following of people. And that following of people started believing that they were the few people who actually believed in the values of that brand. And they all dressed together. And I feel real estate, in fact, really has that potential to do that. Because what is real estate really doing? Real estate is getting people together to form a society. When you are a part of a society, and if you can keep your brand message on, even after they have bought your project, and if you're able to sustain that brand message, you're able to maintain the property, you're able to give them those kind of experiences, and you're able to constantly inculcate your brand's philosophy and talk about what you believe in, you've got a cult brand. You've got a brand that people will actually be, they're living there. They're actually physically living there 24/7. There is no better opportunity for you to build a cult brand than in real estate, if you really look at it, because you're actually physically in that space. So it's a great opportunity to do that, but you have to do that in a way where, you keep hammering your brand, you keep getting people together, you keep giving them experiences, and you keep making them believe that you are amongst, you're a part of their family. Then it will happen.
Thank you so much, Ritu. So I'm just going to ask Dhruval if he's back. Dhruval, do you want to take the question? You had a question, or is he back? So I think we'll move on to there is somebody from the attendees who's put up a question.
Okay.
He's saying, can you tell us few branding initiatives that we should take during this period, as there's a huge shift in the behavior of consumers, and most of them are in a dilemma whether this is the right time to buy or not. I don't know if you can take that question. I think it's from the audience.
Yeah. So I personally feel that I don't think you should be pushing your customers to buy at a time like this. Yeah, the sentiment is not really to purchase, and in fact, this is the time when a real estate builder should be practicing restraint and should, in fact, be talking more about I feel it should be your message should be about what are you doing for the world and the community. This is your chance to actually show your business purpose. So use this opportunity to show how you are helping your laborers, for example. Use this opportunity to show how you're helping all the tenants whom you are, for example, if it's a redevelopment project, how are you helping all your tenants? Or how are you helping some of the senior citizens who are living in the projects that you have built? Use this chance to do things like that, because that is newsworthy. That is things that you can talk about. And that is where you can keep your presence, but you're not directly selling. Don't sell at this point of time, because nobody is in a sentiment to buy a home at this point of time. But if you do these good things, these are the things that they will remember you for. And you are building equity. Slowly and steadily, you are building equity.
Thank you so much, Ritu. I think I'm going to ask Harish Bhai. Harish Bhai, I think you have some questions.
No, actually, I don't have any questions after hearing so many things, and almost all questions have come up. So there's quite thing of clarity. Actually, we were supposed to have two brothers from gold medal, but then one of them could not join, the elder brother Kishan Jain, and they actually have seen them. I have personally experienced how the brand is built in last 7 to 8 years, and how it has gone up in such a big way, gold medal brand. So that just invited them, but then the elder brother could not join for some reason. So otherwise we would have shared his experience today. But then we have got a lot of experience and good knowledge from you, and I think so all of them must have been committed, and not exactly committed, must have understood why brand is important. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Harish Bhai. I think so. Summing up, I think what the essence is that one is brand is an ongoing process. Don't look at short-term benefits out of it. Try and invest in it over a period of time. Have a unique DNA, that differentiates you from the other brand. Because I think all of us are going to be doing the same thing. It's how we differentiate our product. And second thing is that there is much more in terms of how we can create a customer experience. So rather than just focusing on ads and stuff, let's look at ways we can move from product to product and services. I think that's what sums up what a brand truly is. Thank you, Ritu. Thank you so much for coming on this webinar and giving us this kind of details and in-depth analysis on how and what we should do about our brand. I'm going to call Dhananjay to please give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Rituji, for speaking to us at BDA today. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences with the members and all the participants of this webinar. Since we're entering a new phase in our industry, your comments on how to brand your product were very timely. I believe we can benefit immediately from the methods you have suggested for brand building. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and we hope to use your suggestions in our next campaign. Thank you again for your contribution.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.